It's become quite the norm for boxers and mixed martial artists to fight with each other. Back in the day, they were seen as circus-like events. With this video, we'll visit the archives and uncover the most bizarre crossover bouts in combat sports history. Number 5, Floyd Mayweather versus Tenshin Nasukawa. Floyd Mayweather retired with an impressive record of 50 wins and 0 losses after beating UFC megastar Conor McGregor in 2017. With his legacy firmly secured, Mayweather started turning his attention to blatant money grab fights, which he still does today. But lest we forget, the post-retirement exploits began with a matchup against kickboxing prodigy Tenshin Nasukawa back in 2019. On paper, the matchup was intriguing as Nasukawa has proven himself to be a striking savant. Prior to that bout, Nasukawa was billed as an unbeatable hero with 32 wins in kickboxing and 4 wins in MMA. Just like Mayweather, Nasukawa was undefeated with arguably more diverse combat experience than his opponent. However, Mayweather proved to be a far superior boxer to the Japanese superstar. It only took Mayweather a few seconds to put his opponent away, proving that the pairing was a gross mismatch all along. Number 4, Randy Couture versus James Toney. Boxing versus MMA has been a theme that's been used ad nauseum in the Jake Paul era, but back in the early 10s, the question of how a professional boxer would fare in the world of MMA was a legitimate mystery. That's until James Toney stepped up to the plate to battle former UFC heavyweight champ Randy Couture in 2010. Prior to the matchup, Toney, a decorated pugilist of 83 professional bouts, claimed that MMA fighters aren't tough enough to face hard-hitting boxers like himself. He also said that the smaller gloves would practically allow him to KO any fighter who would dare to face him inside the octagon. Little did Toney know that he wouldn't even have the chance to land his punches at all due to his serious deficiencies in the grappling department. Come fight night, the veteran warrior wisely took advantage of his wrestling pedigree by taking Toney to the ground with ease. Within seconds of the fight, the natural secured mount position, rained punches down on his opponent, and secured an easy submission win in the very first round. Number 3, Ben Askren versus Jake Paul. By now, everyone knows that Jake Paul is a decent boxer. His wins over former UFC champions Tyron Woodley and Anderson Silva are proof that he's more than just a YouTuber. Back in 2021, Jake's ability to go against professional fighters was still being questioned. First 2 fights saw him knock out fellow content creator Anison Gibb and ex-NBA player Nate Robinson. The problem child's first true test came against former 1 welterweight champion Ben Askren, who's far more experienced than Paul when it comes to fighting professionally. In hindsight, Askren had no business sharing the ring with Paul. He was undersized, overaged, and being a lifelong wrestler, he lacked the striking skills to contend with a hungry up-and-comer. But of course, MMA fans were still in denial that a former Disney teen star could beat a world-class fighter in any form of combat. That's until Paul nearly shut Askren's lights out with a thunderous overhand right, and the rest, of course, as they say, is history. Number 2, Demetrius Johnson versus Rod Tang. Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson is undoubtedly one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time. But how would he fare in a pure striking match against an elite Muay Thai specialist? That was the premise of his 2022 special rules bout against Thailand's Rod Tang. The bout was contested under a unique set of rules. The fighters will compete in 4 rounds alternating between Muay Thai and MMA. The opening round started with Muay Thai and Rod Tang came out firing on all cylinders, knowing his best path to victory was to take Mighty Mouse out early. A true technician in all aspects of combat, Johnson did fairly well against one of the most feared pure strikers in the division. When things shifted to Johnson's wheelhouse in the second round, however, it wasn't even close. The American utilized his wrestling and it became apparent that the Thai fighter didn't have an answer. Johnson eventually took Rod Tang's back and choked him out with 48 seconds remaining. Number 1, Muhammad Ali versus Antonio Inoki. Surprisingly, the granddaddy of all crossover matches took place 17 years before the first ever UFC event was held. Of course, we're talking about the infamous and endlessly confusing battle between boxing icon Muhammad Ali and Japanese pro wrestling legend Antonio Inoki in June 1976. In a fight billed as the War of the Worlds, Inoki wanted to prove that wrestling was the premier combat discipline, and he wanted to make a statement against boxing's biggest name. But this is when things got a little complicated. When Ali signed the contract for this fight, he was under the impression that it would be an exhibition bout instead of a real contest. After all, Ali was a pro wrestling fan and was wise to the behind-the-scenes mechanisms of sports entertainment. Inoki, on the other hand, wanted to fight Ali for real. As a concept, Ali versus Inoki was a great matchup between two fighters from different worlds, but in reality, the awkward matchup and lack of clear rules led to a very confusing and frankly underwhelming contest between the two legends. Don't forget to follow Sportskeeda MMA on all our social media platforms.